Hello everyone, welcome back to the new video. In the last video we have discussed about WSL and how to install various distros of Linux on Windows using WSL, that is a Windows subsystem for Linux. In case if you still didn't watch that video, I recommend you to watch it. You'll get to know how to use Linux on Windows operating system without using any virtual machine. You can find the link to that video in the description. In this video, we are going to see what is shell, how to use the shell, and we will discuss about super user or the root user in Linux. The Linux shell is a command line interface, which is the CLI, that allows users to interact with the Linux operating system. It acts as a bridge between the user and the system's core, which is the kernel, enabling tasks like file management, program execution, and the system administration through text-based commands. In simple words, the place where you run all your commands in Linux is nothing but the shell. The shell provides an environment for running programs, including setting variables, managing file access, and controlling the flow of input and output. Shells are a type of command line interpreter, meaning they use text-based commands rather than a graphical user interface. If you are using a Linux system with graphical user interface, then you need to manually open shell from activities. Once you go to the activities, then search for terminal and open it. From there, you can use the shell to interact with the system in command line mode. Means when you are using a personal system, this is for those who are using personal laptops or systems with Linux installed on it, then obviously you will get the graphical user interface as well as the command line interface. By default, as you can see, the GUI, from GUI you need to manually open the terminal to use the system in CLI mode. That's it. But when you log into the Linux operating system over network, for example, you are connecting to a Linux server hosted on some data center, you will land in on shell, where you can interact with the system using commands. That is nothing but the shell. The command line interface CLI is more powerful than a graphical user interface, where you can do multiple tasks very easily using the CLI. For example, you want to rename hundreds of files. Let's take an example like this. So the same task using CLI, you can do it with one command, but using GUI you need to perform the task one by one and it may take all your time. So CLI is definitely more powerful. CLI is always included in the Linux distros. That means in any distro that you install, it will have the CLI or shell by default. We already know that Linux is available in multiple distributions, right? And the CLI is available in all distros by default. There is no need to install separately. But server distributions do not include the GUI, right? As we discussed, personal systems or desktop versions may give you the GUI and the CLI, but server distributions only give the CLI. When you connect to a server or network, you will have only CLI and it is the shell. For example, if you are trying to connect to a server hosted on any data center or in the cloud, you need to connect using SSH, which is secure shell, and it is through CLI, which is your shell, right? Desktop distributions will have both GUI and CLI. For example, if you have personal system with Linux installed, then you will have both GUI and CLI, as we discussed in the earlier slide. When you log into the shell, see, when you connect to Linux system using the shell, it shows a prompt, which is a shell prompt, and waiting for you to interact with it through commands. The shell prompt will show you some information like username, server name, current directory, and it ends with a dollar symbol for normal user and a pound symbol for super user or the root user. In Linux, we have a special user called a root user, and it is the super user, means with complete access on the system. As I said, the root or the super user is the most powerful user account on the system. It has unrestricted access to all files, commands, and system resources. The username for the root user is root, and the user ID is 0. Like in Linux, every user have the username and the user ID. With the root user, we can do anything in system, like read, write, and execute anything, can change system settings, install any software, manage users, and many more. You need to be very cautious when using the root user. Actions taken as root user significantly affect or even break the system if misused. So be very careful when you are using the root user or executing any command using the root user. Day-to-day activities can be done by normal user accounts. Generally, day-to-day activities is generally performed by normal accounts. They will not use the root user because it is very dangerous, as it may break the system if misused. The team or people who manages the servers, means administrators, have the root access to perform administrative tasks on servers. To install or remove any application need root access. So any application runs on as service need root access. To start the application, for example, to start Tomcat web server, we need root access, right? We can access root privileges in two ways. Means we can access the system as a root user in two ways. One way is to log in as root. Generally it is not recommended using the command su minus. With this command we can change our user to root user, and then we can execute any command as a root user, but we should know the password for the root user to connect as a root user. Or you can use sudo, which is recommended, and generally everyone use sudo when you want to run any command with the root permissions, which means switch user. Sudo is nothing but switch user and do. In order to do this sudo command, the user who is using sudo should have the sudo access to use the sudo command. Otherwise, the system will not allow to run any command with sudo. In upcoming videos, we will learn more about this sudo, switch user, and using the sudo command. Don't worry about it. I will explain more in depth in upcoming videos about this. Just remember, we have root user, and we can switch to the root user using the su minus command, and you can run any command as a root user using the sudo. Just remember this for now. We will discuss more about in upcoming videos. For example, I can log in with my user but can run the command like a root user using sudo. The key part here is I need sudo access, where system administrator can provide that sudo access to any specific user. We already saw the shell in last video when we installed Linux distro on WSL, right? I hope you remember that. Again, let's log into the Ubuntu from WSL and see how the shell and how the shell prompt is showing right now. I am logging into Ubuntu using WSL. For this, I have to open PowerShell terminal from Windows, and we'll just enter the command WSL. See, I'll open the PowerShell terminal now. This is the PowerShell terminal. Let's maximize the prompt. Okay, here I have to execute the command WSL. We have already discussed that WSL command will connect to the default distro, right? Here the default distro we have is Ubuntu, and we will connect to Ubuntu. Hope you remember the WSL command that we discussed, WSL -L, to see all the distros installed in WSL, and it will show which is the default one as well. Let's see that command, and okay, it is showing Ubuntu 22, like version is 22, and it is the default. So if I run the command WSL, it will directly log into the Ubuntu server. This is the shell, and what you are seeing here is the shell prompt. Observe the blinking line where it is waiting for user commands. You can run any Linux command here and see the output. Observe the prompt. It is showing username first and then the host name. And here you can see the special symbol that is called tilde, which represents the user home directory. The shell prompt shows the directory path where the user is in right now. We call it as current working directory or present working directory. We can print the same by using the command pwd, which is the print working directory. Let's run the command. See, it is printing the current home directory, which is /home/admin user. In Linux, we represent user's home directory with the help of tilde symbol. If I echo the tilde symbol, and you can see the /home and /admin user, which is the user's home directory. Suppose if user moved or navigated to any other directory, then the prompt shows the new value there. Let's see that. I will change directory by using command cd. Before that, I will see what files or directories are present in this current directory by using ls command. Let's run the ls command. Here we have two directories, which is one is Java and the other one is the Tomcat. Let's change the directory to Java by using the command cd, which is called change directory Java. See, let's observe the prompt. It is showing tilde/Java. Right. Let's move to the root directory and observe the prompt. As we discussed, the root directory is represented by /. See the prompt. It just shows / as we are in the root directory. Let's see what are all files and directories available in this root directory by using the command ls. We have many directories here, and let's change directory to media. Right, now the prompt is showing /media. Hope you understand about shell and the shell prompt, also how to list the files and change the directory. Okay, don't worry about these commands, that ls or cd. From next video, we will start discussing more on each Linux command, and it will be more interesting. We have discussed about Linux shell and shell prompt in this video. The key points that we can understand from this video is the Linux shell is a command line interface (CLI) that allows users to interact with the Linux operating system. The command line interface CLI is more powerful when compared to the graphical user interface, which is GUI. Server distributions do not include GUI, and the only way to connect is CLI using SSH, which is secure shell connection. When the shell is started, it displays one prompt or shell prompt and waiting for your commands. In Linux, the root or the super user is the most powerful user account on the system. It has unrestricted access to all files, commands, and system resources. We can access root privileges in two ways. One way is using the command su-, and the other way is using sudo access. And also we have discussed that sudo is always recommended to use. That's it for this video. Hope you liked it. I will see you in my next video. Thank you.